Sitaram viewers, and welcome to our new season of Swa Hindu Perspective, a program prepared and presented by the Board of Swaha to allow Hindus to express their views and, of course, to share our views as leadership of the organization on issues that face the Hindu community and the society as a whole. As we recommence our program, of course, just to remind you that the views that are shared by members of the panel and our guests, in most cases, are our perspective. In instances where what is shared is the position of the organization, of course, that will be stated, but it allows us to express our views and, of course, encourage discussions, which is necessary for us to move forward as we try to make sense of some of the changes that we are seeing taking place in our society. Today, once again, we have with us two members of the Board of Swaha. And of course, it gives me pleasure to introduce firstly our senior most Pandit on this panel, Pandit Gyandev Prasad, spiritual leader of the Swaha Sukh Shanti Bhakti Mandali, and as well as someone who's very versed in scriptures. And of course, his perspectives are very valuable. So Panditji, once again, welcome and thank you for joining us on this program. And secondly, we have Pandit Ishar Madhu Maharaj, who is the current president of the organization Swaha. And of course, he will lend his perspective on the various topics that are going to be discussed. Now, as we begin a new season, of course, we'll ask Panditji Gyandev as our senior Pandit to please lead us in opening prayer.
All join. Om Gajananam Bhutaganadi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palsara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashikarakam Namami Vigneshwar Parapankajam. Volsi Gajanan Swami Ki Jai. Sita.
Sitaram. Thank you, Pandit. And of course, we are all happy to be here once again to share our views with you and to listen to your views. And it has been a long time since we have been on air with new programs. And there have been a lot of new developments in the organization. One major development is that we have a new president, the passing of the baton from myself to Pandit Ishwar. And Panditji, as we begin our program, maybe you can give our viewers some updates on what is taking place in the organization and what we can look forward to as the year roll back. Swaha seeks to once again make its greatest impact upon the national community.
Bol Shri Swaha Mata Ki Jai. Sitaram, and thanks Panajayda ji and Panagyandev ji for starting us off so beautifully. Indeed, it's a pleasure for us to recommence the program. We have been not absent, but I could say a little bit dormant for a little while. And many viewers have been asking, well, why are they seeing so much reruns and when will we restart the program? So it's on, and I do encourage you to let your friends and relatives, your families know that Swaha Hindu Perspective is on again. And remember, a program of the Dharma Mandal of Swaha on IETV. And we look forward to your presence and your presence by looking and also online, those who wish to view it and send in questions. As you see, you can text Pandit Maharaji and send in questions that we will deal with live on the program. So Swaha, it's an exciting time. It's a time for change. Things, we know this world is dynamic, so too is Sanatan Dharma. We would have seen tremendous events occurring at the start of the year, right? And I'm sure everybody would still be excited having witnessed the opening of Ram Janmasthan, that beautiful temple of Prabhu Shri Ram, on that spot, the Janmasthan of Prabhu Shri Ram, and then also the beautiful Ram Murti that has been inaugurated. And coming from that, the enthusiasm, continues, where we of Swaha, we want to keep our devotees and keep our membership excited, about Sri Ram. And we all know we love Sri Ram in Trinidad and Tobago as followers of Sanatan Dharma. But in particular, we are asking that all our devotees further develop, certain capacities. And we are going to be planning a Ramayana singing competition specifically for temples. And in fact, it will be open to other temples. Any temple or group that wishes to participate will have the opportunity. The competition is carded for May 19th. And then we'll have a prize given for a Grand Swadeshi Award ceremony on the 30th of May. So this is a Ramayana singing competition where, quite often, or people in temple, you sing as members of a group. When they're younger in school, there's so many competitions where primary school children take part in. But for the adults, there's very little, in terms of bhajan singing, Ramayana singing, choral speaking, and so on. Swaha had Swadeshi for many years, where all these things, regularly featured. And so we are restarting, but for this year, only the Ramayana singing competition. So it is something to look forward to. And as the weeks unfold, we will be given more and more information. But for viewers now, or members of Swaha, and in fact, any temple or group that wishes to put forward a Ramayana singing team, right? You need to have a minimum of 5 singers or 5 members, maximum of 30 participants with your musicians, of course. And we're going to, give you the liberty to choose the katha that you love, the chaupais and dohas that may be, of particular interest to you. And this is something that we really want to take off. We know it has been done to reward all our members who have shown so much interest in the dedication of that mandir to Prabhu Sri Ram, and many are waiting expectantly on the time that they can actually visit. But in the interim, we can all join to hone our skills and broaden our knowledge and understanding in terms of music, proper Hindi and the way to chant the verses, but very importantly, love, cultivate bhakti and love for Prabhu Sri Ram. So that's one. There are a number of others that we could mention, but I think that's sufficient, and I hand over to Panajayda ji.
Thank you, Panaji. I know that also we have a cricket competition, and I think that may be of interest to members. So I don't know if you'd like to share, at least on that event, and then we can move on to our program.
Okay, sure. I just didn't want to keep talking and leave up Panagyandev there. And,
No, you go ahead. That's important.
But the cricket competition is on, and we have confirmed it's June the 29th for cricket competition. It will be taking place in Aranguez, the Aranguez Park. That's by the Aranguez Sports Club. And we are hoping again to have participants from across Swaha and even nationally if you want to join. And it's a win ball cricket, of course. We are allowing, of course, females to take part. So it's going to be a mixed team. And even if you are not, it's a temple of Swaha, there will be the rules. If you're a group from outside of Swaha, we are still willing to accommodate you, because it's about building bridges. It's about welcoming and building capacity too. So sporting ability is something we want to nurture. But we really want to, encourage other groups to come together. Let us get to know each other. And we are moving forward for Sanatan Dharma. So you will hear more about the cricket competition. Again, that one is a little bit later on June 29th. Spearheading that competition is our Vice President, Pandit Tarun Maharaj, who has done a lot of groundwork already. And in one of the programs, Panajayda, I think we would like to have Pandit Tarun on, so he could go into details about, specific rules and everything regarding the cricket competition. Many of you would probably know that some of our esteemed Pandits, the senior Pandits of the Mandal, were quite accomplished cricketers in their time, right? Which is just a few years ago. So we would like our Swaha teams to really do well, to come together. And we, of course, we will be inviting some of our affiliates and any of our listeners, again, as I said, for the Ramayana singing competition. If in your temple, you may not be a temple of Swaha, but you want to take part in the Swaha cricket competition, you are welcome to do so. It's a round-robin competition that will all be played off on that day, June 29th. Thank you, Panaji.
Yes, so thanks, Pandit, and that's something that we're all excited about. And, we have our various centers, and I think a great innovation is that, we are opening up the competition to anyone. You don't need to be attending the temple necessarily. But as Pandit Ishwar mentioned, one way of expanding our reach is to, build bridges. And if there are members, even if you're a professional player and you'd like to come to the competition and participate with one of the temples, that's also welcome. The idea is to have fun. There's a competition part, and Panajay, I know that we'll have refreshments being sold and all of that. So we want to sell it as, a family day, a day of nice, clean fun, where persons can come and they can really enjoy themselves. So having given the updates, thank you, President, very much for that. And coming out of what you have indicated, I believe there's one question that has been asked, and over the weeks and even the 1 or 2 months that we were on a little hiatus, preparing ourselves for the new season of the Hindu perspective, persons have been asking questions based on what they're observing taking place globally and locally also. And one of the issue, as we looked at the opening of the Sri Ram Mandir, and Panigyani, I'll probably ask this question of you, and then Panigyani, Pandit, sure, you can give your contribution. It's something that I observed that is a little different than we are accustomed to in here in Trinidad. Now, the murti was a black murti, and that is because it was made out of a salagram, and for us,
Let me say that dark murti.
a dark murti, but a salagram is a black stone, right? And of course, that makes sense because in our view, Sri Ram is an avatar of Lord Vishnu. The salagram represents Lord Vishnu. So really in a very direct sense, it speaks of avatar. But persons are asking, why is it that this murti is of that color? And in Trinidad, we see different types of murti that are light in color, etc. But our scriptures will also describe Sri Ram as, a particular color. So Pandit Gandhi, why don't if you can just lend some light on this to explain why it is that the murti would have this particular color, and how does it link to what scriptures say about the physical description of Sri Ram?
Thank you, Jairaj. Most profound question. We have to understand that in India, there is variety. There are some temples, if you go in the temple in south, Jagannathan Mandir, Jagannath Swami, the murti has big eyes and like a stone. So you find all about people do things according to they impose their kind of what you call culture, tradition, and thinking upon the murti. Now, in this case, there are a lot of rules and regulations for making murtis, which we do not follow basically. But in India, they stick to that tradition, and they want to get special stone and special timing. And like for Ganesh Utsav, we just make a murti. They have all kinds of rules and regulations. Now, one of the reasons that I have the dark murti is because you rightly said the stone it chose. It chose a stone from the Gandaki River, which from where have these saligram animals come from. So and one of the things, if you take it from a philosophical point of view, if you look at a murti and you see in the color, then you're not seeing in reality. When a murti is clear, dark, blue. Now, the reality in Hinduism, you have many colors that are put upon the divinities. Right? So you say Bhagwan Shankar Karpura Gauram, he is white. Then you have Krishna Bhagwan, Megha Varnam, like the rain clouds. Sri Ram is the same thing. Now, the thing is, these things are descriptions. Nobody know for sure how to look, but we accept it because we are not that dogmatic to say, I think God is this color. And it brings in a more important point that in Hinduism, there is no discrimination. So they are clear, dark, blue, yellow, green, like Kali. You can say Kali is black. So those things do not mean anything for us. It means there is no discrimination. God can take any form. Imagine they are saying man is made in God image. If I am dark, really black, and all the God white, how will I feel? I can't be a child of God. If, for instance, the same way, you have some people who are short. You have Bhaman Bhagwan came as short. Nursing came as tall. So any form man has, God came in that form to fulfill those kind of criteria that man, you're not excluded from divinity. And to go so far, before I pass on back to Panajayda, is that God also came as a woman. So you can't say that women have no right in divinity, that God is a man. So we have all the spectrum from dark to white, from man to woman, from tall to short. And Ganesh Bhagwan is the only God who we know who is fat. So whether you're fat, whether you're thin, or in shape, you're included. Hinduism includes everybody. No discrimination, no exclusion. This is the greatness of Hinduism. So emoji is dark, fine. But what is important? What Sri Ram told Sevari, put bhakti in your mind, put love in your heart, and pray to God.
Thank you very much, Panditji. Very profound. Pandit Ishwar, would you like to share your views on this?
Yeah, yes, Panditji. So I agree. I endorse the sentiments of Pandit Gyandev. And then to go a little bit deeper, I mean, when I say deeper, not to insinuate that there's anything superficial that Panaji spoke about, but sometimes we will link it towards to philosophy. So, Panaji mentioned Sham Gaur, right? So you hear about Sri Ram being described as the color of the rain clouds, the dark rain clouds. Lakshman Bhaiya described as Gaur, Sham, fair in color, Sri Rama Sham, dark in color, dark complexion Lord. So that's one reason. Then, of course, is a shaligram. Shaligram is generally dark also or black. And so that's shaligram's shield. So it wouldn't be the normal shaligram that has the fossil on the inside. Many of you will, you'll want to get that shaligram that has a little hole and it's fossilized, right? So you have the coils or the spiral on the inside, which if you go to a puja store in India, those are sold for plenty more money than the regular ones. But any stone, dark stone like that, that comes from the Gandaki River, which originates in Nepal, is considered auspicious and close to Lord Vishnu. So this was used. But then more than that, and if we look at the philosophy of, colors then, or symbolism rather, the color white consists of all the 7 colors. Actually, we see something as white because all the colors are reflected. Roy G. Biv then, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. All these 7 colors are reflected, and so we see something as white. And I'm speaking to as a science teacher, right? So these are things we would have taught students in school. But the color black now, it absorbs. It absorbs energy. It absorbs color. So it's not that is devoid of color, but it absorbs. It takes in. This is why if you're playing out in the sun, you don't go in black, all black, right? You'll feel extreme heat as compared to in years gone by, cricketers and still do depend, especially for test matches, only white. So that will reflect some of that heat and some of that energy so that they can remain a little bit cooler. So black absorbs. So think about it. While yes, there may be the social reason for not wanting to promote discrimination and for all inclusiveness, but also we are saying, do you want your prayer and your message to just be reflected back on you, or do you want the Lord to absorb everything? Take that and then bless you. So this is one simple way you could look at it that way too. I know, and while we're on the point of, so the color absorbing, black, is the color of infinity, we say. It's the color of infinity, just as Sri Krishna is described, dark blue, black in color, very dark in color. Everything is contained within him. And something, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, sorry for that term, right? But people also wondered why a 5-year-old form of Sri Ram. And that one, Pandit, if you don't mind, I mentioned one time as we're talking about Prabhu Sri Ram, there was a lot of controversy about that also. Beginning of Ramayana, Balkand of Ramayana, when Sita Mata asks Prabhu Sri Ram, who is Sri Ram? What is special about Sri Ram? He was speaking about the name. Tulsidas is describing the greatness of the name of Sri Ram, and then they give that episode where Shankar Bhagwan is speaking to Parvati Mata, and he says, O Parvati, sit and perform devotion, meditate upon Prabhu Sri Ram, and for Doghari, for 2 hours, Bhagwan Shankar sat in devotion, dhyanam, and then when he opened his eyes, well, before actually his dhyanam, he said, Parvati Ma, focus upon Sri Ram, Bando Bal Rupa Soi Ramu. Think of the child form of Sri Ram. This is the form I wanted to focus upon. Not adult Sri Ram, not Prabhu Sri Ram with Sita Mata and Lakshman. Think of the form, Bando Bal Rup Soi Ram, Bal Rup, Bal form of Prabhu Sri Ram. And this is something that many people may not have remembered. So I thought I'd point that out. Panditji.
Thank you very much. So we all have different perspectives on it, and I hope that this lends some light to the questions that you all would have submitted to ask about this. As Panigyandev mentioned, we see equality, we don't discriminate. Sham Gaud, yes, that is said. In fact, in Sabarikatha, when she saw Sri Ram, Sham Gaud, and then it was followed by what? Sundar Do Bhai, that one dark, one fair, but both are beautiful. So that the beauty doesn't lie necessarily in the physical, but more in the spiritual and the innate qualities. And as Pandit he went a little deeper into the philosophy. And then we also know that the salagram represents that form of Lord Vishnu. And that form of Lord Vishnu come in to become Sri Ram to represent that outer and all of that. So all of these reasons we are presenting to you so that you understand from multiple perspectives, why it is that this murti looks that way. Of course, for some persons it may be different, and we have freedom in our devotion. So if you feel that the murti you have in your home, your nice marble murti, rather your concrete murti, or dirt murti, whichever one you prefer, however you connect the divinity, that is the most important thing. So coming out of this, what I'll ask members of the panel, as Pandit Gyanu mentioned, we do have situations where in Trinidad, we may not make the murtis in the way that they do it in India. But I know that we also do not have the resources to make murtis like that, but we do make clay murtis. And, someone who's very close to me, Mr. Daniram, we call him Murti Man. His specialty is from Freeport, and maybe I can ask him to come on the program someday and we can speak about that, because we use these murtis for, in particular for Ganesh Utsav. And he would have indicated to me that there are certain rituals that are done. So for example, when they're collecting dirt, 5 ladies will go in the same way that they go for a hardi, right? Matikur. They would go to the place from which the murti is going to be dissolved. They will perform ceremony, collect some dirt. That dirt is used to build the murti. They will put 9 pieces of metal for the Navgraha. And then obviously at the end of it, ceremony Visarjan is done and goes back there. And then the process of making the murti would have indicated he has to do some things as the person who is making the murti in terms of ensuring that the home is clean and all of that. So all of those will be an interesting discussion that we can lead, or we can expand, at some point when we can get him on the program. So that this has been definitely, a very interesting discussion, and it certainly would have lent some, clarification in the minds of persons. Now, just building out of what Pandit Gyanu said, he said that in Hinduism, we see God as man and woman, there's equality. And whatever is reflected in our scriptures should certainly be reflected in the way that we live our lives. And, recently, to come to what we are observing taking place in our society, we have seen some, some differences. And we are not going to make a judgment on whether we are breaking traditions or breaking rules, but there certainly has been some changes to what we are accustomed to. And change is nothing new in Hinduism. So what we are seeing now is just what happens to be topical at this point in time. But certainly over the years, we have seen changes in terms of the way that we perform puja, the way that we perform yagya, the way that we approach, use and building of temples, etc. So that we are not criticizing anything, but we are simply looking at the changes that we are going to be observing that has taken place, and we'll probably give some comments on it based on how we perceive things. So there are changes to diet, there are changes to social life and all of that. And recently there was the issue of the role of women in Hinduism, the role of women in rituals, either as participants or as performers of the ritual. And that is something that persons are very interested in. The most popular of cases recently would have been the case of the funeral of, the Honorable Basil Pandey, where his daughters would have performed ceremony. Now, I know there's a lot of misunderstanding. What people believe took place is not necessarily the case, but it does serve as a case for us to explore, what may be our views on that in terms of participation. What is the role of women? Given that Pandit Gyanu would have said that, there's equality among the Devdas and Devis, and therefore there should be equality amongst man also. And by man, we mean society. So Pandit Gyanu, you being the most senior of Pandits here, I feel that maybe we could defer this question to you first, and then the rest of us, we can jump in. So Panditji, can you take it from any perspective you wish?
Well, let me just, if you don't mind, I just want to mention something, wait, Thomas, just now, before you go into this important topic. The color. I want to just mention that India is very corrupt, with no apologies. And the people in Bollywood are sometimes even more corrupt. And the song, since the Ram Mandir was built, the song Raghupati Raghav Rajaram has been gone back to original. They changed it over years, and everybody knows that something else. And I just want to read 2 lines, but I can't sing like Panishwar or Panajaya, so I'll just read it. In 2 lines tells us about the murti and the color. It says, this is the original song, Raghupati Raghav Rajaram, Patita Pauna Sitaram. It says, the first verse, Sundar Vigraha, Megha Sham. As you mentioned, the Sundar Vigraha, beautiful Murti, Megha Sham, like the even close. Ganga Tulsi Shaligram, just like Ganga, just like Tulsi, just like Shaligram. Sundar Vigraha, Megha Sham, Ganga Tulsi Shaligram. These are the original Raghupati Raghav Rajaram. And when the Bollywood people decide to change it to show whatever reason, for the reason, it has been lost. And now has Sri Ram Murti has been established in Ayodhya. This is another very important point, and they have gone back to original. This is something we deal with. We'll deal with it later on in the program. And also to mention, Panishwar mentioned beautifully, it was a historical event that when they wanted to establish a Murti in Ayodhya, what Panishwar says correct from the scriptures, but from emotional point of view, they made a child Murti, and everybody believed that is my child. And they put the child Murti, the Ram Lala, they call it. And that's why people emotion is so high that we want our child to be established, Sri Ram as a child. And so that brought, when anybody who has studied or realized, that was a major factor carrying forward this thing to make sure that Sri Ram Murti, Sri Ram temple was built in Ayodhya. So I just mentioned that. And if I want to mention anything, go ahead. Anybody want to say anything? All right, so I will just go on what Panjay asked. I'm not going to detail, I'll just start simply by saying equality in God, it doesn't mean equality in man. You have the forecast, Brahman, Satya, Vaishya, nobody's same. And we have different duties. Now, in my opinion, and I've taken what is based on the scriptures here, the Charan didn't shave their head, right? The girls who did the Shraddh didn't shave their head. So they have been conveniently, and Panajayat made this point, they are doing this convenient. I want to Shraddh Karma, but I don't want to shave my head. So what's going on right here? But let me mention what Gita says. And this word has been mentioned a whole set of times in the Gita. Parampara, it says, Krishna Bhagavan says, Hey Parth, जो पुरुष इस लोक में इस प्रकार परंपरा से प्रचलित सृष्टि चक्र के अनुकरण नहीं बनता है, अर्थात अपने कर्तव्य का पालन नहीं करता है, वह इंद्रियों का द्वारा भोग में रमन करने वाला पापायु पुरुष व्यर्थ ही जाता है. Krishna Bhagavan beautifully said, if you don't follow the tradition, the wheel of creation, the srishti chakra, as they call it, follow that. We can do what you want. And then later on, in the next part of Gita, he says, manmana dhang se kaam karte hai. Those who do what they feel to do. I think it's chapter 16, verse something. He says that there are people who feel to do what they feel to do. It's not prescribed in the scriptures. You have to do what the scriptures is, not what you feel to do. So if women want to follow, many points, women have a role and responsibility. They don't do it, society is free. You can't stop them. But I wouldn't do it. I, as a Pandit, will not, because we just had a discussion. I said in Garud Puran, I know that I went to some more research. Garud Puran says, if you have no sons to do it, go and get an orphanage. And an orphan. Now that's the highest form of religion. There's no connection between me and the human and the person who died. The orphan is doing duty as a duty, and he's getting tremendous benefit for that. So then all these things are prescribed in scriptures. We should not do what you feel to do. My father, I want to do it. No. I think that is where Kali starts and continues. So just bear in mind, Krishna Bhagavan said, what we deal with is parampara. He says the same with the Guru. The Guru is parampara. He says the same with Arjun. He said, given here is parampara means tradition. Tradition is uppermost. And what Ramayana says, Raghukul Riti Sadacharyayi Pranajayi Varupasanajayi. Raghukul Riti means parampara self. So that or tradition, you have to follow it. Don't do anything you feel to do. That is madness. So I'll pass on. There are many points I elaborate on Jayad.
Thank you. Panadishar, what would you like to share anything? I mean, it has your own perspective on it. Of
course. And I want to just mention, this is what we are speaking about here is just bringing out facts. So these are not this is definitely not the opinion of Swaha, the body, certainly not a definitive Sanatanist Hindu perspective as such. We are merely raising some of the concerns of people who actually sent in information, right? So Panagyandev, of course, who comes from, dare I say, an older school, right, of thought, and not much older than us, but of course, steeped in tradition, he would know and want to adhere strictly to that. You may have others, and I'm not saying that I will, readily allow females, let's say you have sons, grandsons, nephews, cousins who may do the part, but to do that, Shraddh Karam, to allow a daughter or granddaughter or, Girl Quran does talk about the wife, and it makes allowances for that. And there are many cases where pundits may have allowed a wife, the Dharmapatni of an individual, to do the Shraddh Karam. But we're not going to go into all of those details. I'm saying there's another side to it. So tradition is important, yes, but we have seen over time various traditions have started to change. And they haven't just changed because we decided to erode them and get rid of them. It's over thousands of years, certain modifications have been made. And I'll make the point simply, Pandagandeo spoke about the different castes, and nobody does Bandara in 40 days. All Bandara is done in 13 days or 12 days in the case of Brahman. So that was a change right here in Trinidad. And you know what? That's in Trinidad here and in certain other places, of course. So traditions, based on time, place, circumstance, desh, kal, also, certain traditions have been modified. No, we are not doing away with it. And perhaps the time will come where someone will say, well, I come from that caste, and so I want to do the Bandara in 40 days, right? So nobody will ask because they will not want to fast for that long. But the point is, certain things have changed, even the marriage ceremony, even the way we do puja and yagyas, there have been modifications, there have been changes. Look at the yagyas that were done. Sorry, look at the yagyas that were done in the past. You'll see the Shrota sitting there with his hands clasped. Those Vedic yagyas, there was a huge Havan, and all the oblations were offered by the Pandits, the holy ones who were all around. And the Shrota, whether it's the Raja, Maharaja, or whoever it may have been, they pray, they make offerings, they may touch, they may, hand over certain things, but many of the offerings were made by the Pandits. So we have made modifications in the way we do things. And, there's something, the Brahm Samaj and Panagyandeoji will know. We always, joke and say, well, if you have 5 great Brahmanas from different groupings that come together and decide on something for the betterment of society, there is worth to that. There's merit to that. So I'm not saying that should happen here, but I'm saying that there's a precedent for it for certain changes, minor changes. And I want to make the point that we are in no way, speaking negatively about the daughters of our illustrious former Prime Minister Basdev Pandey, right? We respect him, which is why Swaha actually went and we were visible. The chairman of Swaha, myself as the president, we went and we made sure to write the sentiments of the people of Swaha into that book for late Prime Minister. So we love him, we love the family also, but the reality is we are just given different perspectives as to what was done. And I want to say maybe the Pandit that did the Shraddh Karam, Pandit Atmaji, well respected, I know. I'm from South myself. He's a Pandit from South Trinidad. Maybe Pandit Jaida, we can reach out to him, and others, if not him, others who may be interested in actually expressing their opinions on this important issue. And the last thing I want to say, and I want you all to think, why must I take a stranger, whether orphan or what, to do, why must the family get a stranger, whether it's an orphan, a friend, or, couldn't be a friend, but just someone to do the Shraddh Karam, do the Dashgatra and the Bandara, Uttam Shodashi, Madhyam Shodashi, whatever it may be, and you have a daughter, you have a granddaughter who may want to do it, the wife may want to do it, and she has that connection. She is not out of love and out of wanting to stay attached. Has nothing to do with attachment. Has to do with the bhav and the attitude with which that person will do it. And it is my belief, the attitude of a person who has that sincere, bhakti and devotion will do it sincerely. The reward may be greater than someone who's a total stranger coming just to do something and offer in a monotonous way because we have asked them to do something. Or in some cases, people have been paid to do Shraddh Karam. That happens right here in Trinidad. So it is a reality. It is fast becoming more and more prevalent, and we'll be foolish not to tackle it head on. So as Swaha, we are not shying away from it. But I want to make it clear, we have no official position as yet. As yet. We are in discussions, and we welcome discussions with other religious groups also. Opal in particular, of course, will be part of that before we could come up with any formal decision or position on this important issue. Panaji.
So thank you both panelists for the for your views, and yes, I agree. In both instances, I understand in both instances, we would have different views, and we are looking at two different generations. And if amongst ourselves, we have different views, and what do you leave for others also? The reality is that change is here. And the reason, as Panditji rightly mentioned, is not because we are looking to criticize what was done, but simply to use it as an example, to shed light upon the realities that are facing us, that we do have these changes. We have younger persons, educated persons. We have persons who are, for example, feminists, belong to different groups, and it's not feminists alone. Others who believe that they have rights, and they do have rights, right? So, for example, the LGBTQ movements, etc., those are realities. They are persons in society, and our way of life are made up, constituted of these same individuals. Are we going to say that you don't have a place because you're not following the rules faithfully, or what we consider to be that? So that it is something that we have to tackle head on, as Pandit Ishwar mentioned. And Pandit Ishwar, you alluded to the solution in my view. And in the same way that if a government wants to implement a new policy, they want to do anything new, that they consult with people. I think that the role of our organization is really to consult, not just with persons, but with other organizations, experts in the field. Look at what is taking place in other countries, and it is only then can we come up with a position and to say that as one of the major organizations, and hopefully can get other major Hindu organizations to come on board with these type of discussions. Because if you have every single pundit making a decision on their own, to me that is how we have failure, and we have situations where we deviate further and further from what is tradition, and then we get in the realm of anybody doing what they feel to do. So there is need for us to recognize that because there's change, and that change may come from a place of maybe justified, or it may come from a place of ignorance. We don't know as yet. We can't know. We don't have the answer. But by consultation, we are going to come up with that answer. So I think that SWAHA can be a driver in this area, and SWAHA can, take the initiative to bring groups together, bring persons together, and to commence this consultation process. So I think that this is something that is quite important, given the realities that we are seeing taking place in our society. So I wanted to ask one question again, coming out of all of this discussion, that, we spoke about changes and evolution, just like human evolution, it happens over a period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. So that, we have to decide on the things that we want to keep, what we want to change. So those become fundamental issues. What do we keep? What do we change? But I think that most importantly, yes, we consult, etc. But in the process of consulting, what do we use? What are the sources of information? What are the sources of knowledge that must be consulted? Panditji would have made reference to the Bhagavad Gita. So we know that is one source to which we can go in order to find some precedence for what we do or don't do. In addition to the Bhagavad Gita, what may be some of the other sources that we consider as an organization to be valid sources to determine what should change or what should not change? So, Panigyandio?
Let me just go back a bit. Recently, Shivratri is completed. You all had Shivratri celebrations. My personal view, I'm not going to wake whole night and get up next day when sun rises and you're going to sleep. That's counterproductive, but people accept that. Is that one of the changes you want to see? I do not give that kind of idea that Shivratri is to wake up whole night and do like some people and sing Calypso and jump up on him in India, and that is waking out. That is Shivratri. And when the sun's supposed to rise and you suddenly pray to the sun, you're going to sleep. So is that one change we want to see? There are many changes that need to take place, Panajay rightfully mentioned. But what Or how do we decide which change take place? I don't want to go back to that point. Women do get Janev. I've not seen it yet. Janev is what you get to do sanskar. So obviously you can't do sanskar or karma. And if you don't want rights, check and see. When there was COVID, Hindus' rights were curtailed totally. You can't burn the dead. Your rights are curtailed at various points in times. And what do? We accept it. So their rights, you can't say, my right, my right, my right, my right. So some people come like that. That is society. When there is no control, it's chaos. And like a person who goes in jail, he can't say it's my right to vote. He has no rights there. He's in jail. His rights have been taken away from him. So we've taken that kind of way of thinking that do not go jump on the bandwagon of rights. It's my right to do that, my right to do that. Nobody has any right to do anything. Nothing on right to die. Sometimes you want to die, you can't die. So as far as change is concerned, we go back to the scriptures. In my opinion, I don't deviate from the scriptures at all. Scriptures always say that. And this is a very powerful verse on the Gita. He says, Bina Shraddha ke biye ke hue, without belief. Some people do it because not because they have belief, because how it look, and it's my father and my this and my that. Some people say emotion. Listen carefully. So some people ask why they because they believe in what they're doing, or because for optics, or because it's my father. I kind of selfish. Krishna Bhagavan says, and this verse 16, verse 17, sorry, 28, and you can check it. Bina श्रद्धा के किए हुए हवन दिया हुआ दान एवं तप हुआ और जो कुछ भी किया हुआ शुभ कर्म है. Whatever good karma you do, whatever you do, whether havan, puja, yag, whatever, right? वह समस्त असत है. It is asat. Asat means, you know what? Untruth. इस प्रकार कहा जाता है, इसलिए वह न इस लोक में, in this world, लाभदायक है और न मरने के बाद भी. So when you want to do Bhandara and Shevan for your fight, because I feel I can do it, I have the right to do it, it's not because you believe in it. If you believe in the scriptures, then you wouldn't do it. But if you have the reason for doing it is because of optics, or because of emotion, or because of how you go look, or because of stubborn attitude. I feel a woman could do it, so I could do it. Why man do it only for? So what we do, we sideline the basic of what Krishna Bhagavan says, which is belief. I goes back to the next chapter which I read. He said, क्या हुआ? जो पुरुष शास्त्र विधि त्याग कर, शास्त्र विधि त्याग कर. Give up the scriptures. If you have a guide, who are we? We are so great. Ramayana, Garuda Puran, Shiv Puran, Bhagavad Puran, none of them I know, only we know. So Krishna Bhagavan is saying that we cannot give up this. त्याग कर, शास्त्र विधि के त्याग कर, अपनी इच्छा से, मनमाना ढंग से, with all desire, or desire become uppermost. Nothing else is uppermost. आचरण करते हैं वह सिद्धि को प्राप्त होता है, नहीं होता, परम गति को और न सुख की होता है. So there is no happiness, there is no divinity, there is no blessing, nothing. So this is going on in the society today. People who want to jump on International Women's Day, women have a right to be just like a man. So I could do like a man. They give up the what scriptures say, and I just conclude Panjayat, Bhakti to you. It's an important point Krishna Bhagavan made, and that is the point in chapter 3, verse 16, where he's talking about the wheel of creation. We are not atheists, we believe the world is created by God and created a system. God, when Paul put up a system in place, nobody can go against it. You have systems on God. So chapter 3, verse 16, follow the wheel of creation, what God has put in place. And if who want to change it, that's why you come from avatar. So if you want to change it, the avatar comes, just like avatar comes, and sanctions the change.
That's a very interesting perspective, Pandit. And I mean, I guess it alludes also to, yes, avatar will come and reestablish dharma, but the reason for avatar is when systems are breaking down and there's anarchy pretty much.
You're right. So that's how system breakdown. We're not following scriptures. We're not following scriptures. System breakdown.
Yeah, because I mean, if you were to go to Ramayana, Ravan did that, right? In short, there was no yagya. There was no a spreading of the word of God. That doesn't sound very Hindu, but the essence of that, right? By so doing, destroying Yagya, starving the Deotas and the Devis, etc., then that was the way that he was able to gain control. And there was an abundance of what? Of sin, of gambling, of robbers and all of those things. And we are seeing instances of that in society. So that there is merit in what Gyani was saying, Pandit Gyani was, sorry, in my view, and again, these are all perspective, in that there are structures and we are supposed to adhere to these structures.
But
But
just one thing.
Mhm.
I see that Panishwar is any time and have I any time?
Yes, I do. I'm
Right,
keeping track of the time.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But I do understand what Pandit Ishwar is saying, in terms of the emotions are important also. So I'll ask Pandit Ishwar, I mean, we are just a few minutes away from concluding. Pandit Ishwar, if you'd like to just share, your view on maybe, as a Pandit, as an educator, you'll have a lot of experience in these things. I mean, all of us are educators, but, and just, Panditji, from last time now, he has changed positions from principal of the Swahili College, SS3, which is a very, high position in Ministry of Education, this
Congratulations.
country. So Panichi, congratulations on behalf of
Thank
all
you,
our
ma'am.
viewers, etc. So Panichi, how do you strike that balance? I mean, you are traditional also. You have come from a long lineage of Brahmins, etc. So I know that you would not believe in, throwing the scriptures away, but understanding the nature of persons also, an emotional part of it.
Yeah.
How would you suggest that as
Yeah.
Pandits marry both?
So I could tell you. So Garud Puran gives you some details. Pret Manjari also, and there are various other texts or scriptures that will mention it, right? But the Garud Puran, Pret Manjari are some of the more popular ones that will be quoted. And then uh, even within Swaha, of course, Parmachar would have produced his own book on Hindu death rituals, giving alternative opinions in terms of the way things can be done. But in my view, and again, we say this is not the one conclusive view of Swaha or of Sanatan Dharma in general. I will not advocate that, and I hope nobody's offended, but we will not advocate that woman or a girl, a daughter does the Shad Karam. It is only in, for me, extreme cases where, for whatever reason, there is a void of any other individual who may be so willing. And any other qualified individual. And some other time we could probably go into detail. And when I say qualified, I stand by what I say. No stranger should be doing the work for your mother or father. That's my opinion. But it could be a second cousin, a third cousin, someone who, individual, a young man or elderly man who is willing to, of course, support the family. And there's merit also in someone from the lineage. Cool, also performing the rites and rituals. So I will say, even though I'm saying yes, there has to be some way for this tradition perhaps to allow a little crack, a little opening in the door for maybe our daughters and our sisters and our mothers who may so wish to participate. There are pundits who will say, I will not let them do the main part, but they can be one of the five and they can join and they can touch. So they will not shave their head because they are not the chief celebrant or the main shota then, right? That's another way. That's another option that some have used to basically allow entry to satisfy certain criteria in their minds, right? So I'm saying this is worthy, Panajaidat, Panagandeo. We don't know everything. We are only exploring it and drawing things out for you to have your opinion to. Send your questions and send your comments. And feel free, if you have to lambast Panagandeo, me or Panajaidat, that you totally disagree with what was said. That's what we want. We want to provoke discussion. So you don't have to say, yes, Panagandeo was right, yes, Panitishwar right. No, no, no. Write in, send it in if you totally disagree. Give us your point, your opinion, and we will explore it in a future program. And we said we'll try to get maybe another pundit, perhaps of another organization, to also share his views as we explore not just in terms of women's role in Hindu after that rituals, but everything. Women pundits as Purohit, so many other taboo or controversial topics we will be discussing on Hindu perspective.
Thank you, both pundits. And I think that, we have ended on a very exciting point there, things that we can look forward to. All right. And we would obviously try to get a woman in the program also, a female, because we can't just have men talk about issues that
For
we
sure,
may not
yeah.
understand, right? So maybe let's hear from a female what is their view, right? Why do they believe this is so important to them? We may get to the root of understanding how they feel. Maybe they feel that they're not valued, etc. And a lot of elucidation can come about through simple discussions. So as our program moves forward, I certainly don't think that this is the end of this discussion. We are going to try to get some guest panelists to come outside of Swaha, as well as maybe some females. And let's take the discussion further. And hopefully we come to some compromise. That where we don't break the rules of our dharma, but at the same time, we are not distracting the emotions of persons. Because when it comes to that ceremony, obviously it is about emotions also. And those are the realities that we have to look at. Okay, so Pandits, are there anything you would like to say before we close off?
Good.
Okay, Panagyanyo, any final words?
No, just the point that we discussing things as not like black or white. We are getting views, opinions, and the final decision will be forthcoming from the scriptures in conjunction with our holy ones and from people who what they have to say also.
Definitely. So Pandit Ishwara, can you lead us in closing prayer?
I think we all joined together. We spoke so much about Prabhu Sri Ram also in the beginning, the first 20 minutes or so of the program, we focus upon Prabhu Sri Ram. Om Aparam Paharataram Dataram Sarva Sampadam Lokabhiramam Sri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham Om Shri Sita Ramachandraya Namah. Bole Siyapati Ramachandra ki jai, Swaha Mata ki jai, Satya Sanatan Dharma ki jai. Sita Ram.
Sita.